certain thought structures become deeply lodged in the mind, and they hang on in there. This is how it is. And your sense of self, your sense of identity, your sense of who you are, becomes entangled with that narrative. Now, people do that on a personal level, in their own personal lives, and in some places more than others, less so in countries like the one we are. But in certain countries, the collective narrative still has enormous hold on people. The collective mental conditioning overwhelms the mind, and every personal sense of self, it really is predominantly dominated by the collective us and our story, our narrative. This is how things are. And you find that collective identification very strong in all those places where there is an enormous amount of conflict and violence. And so there is the seeming inability to see what is happening, that I am identifying with a particular way of interpreting reality. And I am mistaking a thought or a set of thoughts for the truth of how things are, or the truth of who I am, if it's on the personal level. So people do it collectively and personally to themselves. Certain ideas form in your mind who you are. Conditioning, parents told you, society tells you, or you react against what parents told you and society tells you of who you are, and it's also conditioned. And you are then, your sense of self is in the movement of thought, and there are certain repetitive thought movements that then provide you with your sense of self. Personal, predominantly personal, or predominantly collective. And there's the inability to see the limitations of thought. The inability to see that ultimately no thought that you have concerning anything or anybody, yourself, a situation, a place, an event, can hold the absolute truth. It cannot encompass the truth. A thought at best will give you an aspect of the truth. Every thought that you think about anything or anybody is a temporary perspective. When you know thought to be a temporary perspective, thought is beautiful. Thought enables you to do many things. When you forget, when you do not know that every thought that you have about anything or anybody is one of many, many possible perspectives on this person, on this situation, on this place, whatever it may be. When you don't know that, you mistake an interpretation, a thought, a judgment. Jesus used the word judgment a lot. What he's really talking about is thought, because ultimately every thought is a judgment. As long as you know that, it's fine. You can use thinking. Thinking arises. But the illusion that anything that you can express through thought can embody the absolute truth is not there anymore. So that means when your sense of who you are is totally identified with the story that you are telling yourself and others, that is an illusory sense of self, and most people are trapped in it. Not just the people in the Middle East or Northern Ireland or wherever there may be long-standing conflict that's been going on for, in some places, hundreds of years. In what used to be Yugoslavia, they've been fighting for hundreds of years. Every generation absorbs the same mental conditioning, identifies with the same thought structures that says we are right, we are that, and they are totally mind. And then you are a mind-made entity. You don't know who you are beyond that, and all your entire life then is designed to strengthen that ultimately illusory entity, me and my story, or us and our story. And that entity is a thought form consisting of different thoughts that come together. And that entity says me, I, or us, we, and them. And because that sense of identity is so fearful and fragile, because deep down you don't feel that you really know yourself. So it has to be reinforced by having the other to fight against. I define myself when I am trapped in a mind-made, thought-based sense of self, whether collective or personal or a mixture. I am trapped in an illusion that seeks to strengthen itself, that seeks to strengthen its boundary, me and my mental position, my story, my truth. Of course, you don't call it my truth, you call it the truth. And it needs the other to define itself through. It needs some kind of conflict or enemy out there, because then that state of self that is mind-made feels stronger for a moment. And then you need some more. You can see it in your personal life as the need to be right in an argument. The enormous need to be right that has a lot of emotion with it. You have expressed your thoughts, somebody else says the exact opposite and says, you're completely wrong. What do you mean? And this people usually in a situation like that become totally unconscious. What that means, I'm not saying that they faint. They become unconscious. It's almost like fainting. They become unconscious in the sense that they are totally identified with thought. That's, spiritually speaking, means unconscious. Totally identified with thought processes and the emotions that go with them. And that is the energy that happens when there's identification with total identification with thought as me, a mental position as me. And you can see in relationships, partners, how very easily they start arguing, and it's each person identifies with their mental position. This is how it is. No, it's not. Yes. So, and this has been going on for many thousands